Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Sage. I'm here today with Robert Fukui, who just finished emceeing our 2021 Nehemiah Week Investors Forum. Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks. Always a lot of fun to MC this event. This is my third year running, I guess.
You get to facilitate the platform where entrepreneurs are looking for money. That must be fun.
Yeah. I love to be on this receiving end.
I know that. I know.
But MCing is fun.
That's right.
I got no risk.
Well, guys, this is day 4. So we began today, with our opening prayer, and we had the worship time. If you guys joined us, we had worship boomed in from Mexico, and then we had Pastor Gabriel boomed in the service. He ministered to us from Paris, France. We had a great panel today of an entrepreneur, Chuck Prophet, a community leader, an entrepreneur, John from Kenya, and then Robin, CFO and CPA, to deal with kind of entrepreneurs preparing for risk and navigating risk. First of all, were you there at that time during that panel, Robert?
Yeah.
So, question for you: what do you think? What were your thoughts about some of the insight they shared? I thought they shared great insight.
Oh yeah, I mean they're all experienced when it comes to entrepreneurship or helping entrepreneurs or both, and definitely shared some insight. And I always get a kick with Robin. She has a good way of really not dumbing down, but explaining in layman's terms finances. That's one of the comments I made in the Investors Forum is that's one of the number one gaps for most entrepreneurs, because they're not typically gifted in finance and accounting. Right? They're gifted in whatever skill that earns them money. And because they're not gifted in finance, it's a part that gets neglected. And then because it's like a foreign language. And so I thought Robin does a great way in explaining it in a way, you and I can understand.
She does. She's more of an artist than a scientist when it comes to numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And that helps. It's interesting. She has an interesting personality type for an accountant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She, and it's very interesting, but that allows her to be able to make it layman, make it basic, simple. She looks at it even more operationally, more than just bean counting.
Right. Yep.
And she's been a gift to us. And John, what do you think of John from Kenya? I mean, this guy, he just I just like this idea. The idea of, we had him on our forum on the Run Like a Lion, and he coined this idea of position your business to be the predator, for lack of a better word, versus the what's the alternative predator?
Prey.
Versus the prey. And I thought, that's the perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because first of all, it is about market positioning. Sometimes it is about perspective. It is about mindset.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's basically another way of saying you got to be on the offensive, not defensive. And I think too many times entrepreneurs act defensively. They're more reacting as opposed to being proactive. When you're on the offense, you're dictating things, right? If you think about any sports team, or whether it's football, basketball, whatever, the defense reacts. The offense is dictating. And so too many times we're in a defensive posture. And so, biblically, we're called to be the head and not the tail. We're supposed to be the innovators. We're supposed to be the market leaders. Yet what we tend to do is react and copy. I mean, we're always talking about best practices, right? And what does that mean? Copy somebody else and what they're doing successfully. Now, certainly there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, think about how you can do something better or different. And different could be better. Right? I mean, be the market leader in how you do things. I mean, there's so many great examples in business of how, you hear about disruption, right? Technology is disruptive. You're doing something that hasn't been done. So whether or not you're in technology or not, it's always good as a business to always think about how you can be doing things a little bit better than everybody else, and not so much copy what everybody's doing, but look at the gaps in how you do business in the industry, in the market, and say, we got to address this. Now, the risk is there's a risk because it hasn't been done. And so that's why only a small percentage of entrepreneurs are truly innovative, because there's a lot of risk in being in the front. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you are the first to get the beatings, right?
Exactly. You take the headwind.
But to your point, but you set the pace as well,
Right.
right? You get everybody else dancing to your music, which
Mhm.
gives you a long-term strategic advantage.
And you don't have to worry about the competition.
That's right.
You know, everybody's so worried about copying success. We're always worried about the competition copying you. And yeah, if there's a way you can protect yourself through IP, copyrights, patents, and all that, great. But most things can't be protected through IP, or at least the legal IP. And some things you don't want to have protected through the legal process, because once you have something copyrighted or patented, it's public information. So people can copy. They'll do as close as possible to copy exactly what you're doing, even though it's patented, without getting nailed, right, legally. So sometimes even the copyright or the patent process actually exposes you more, as opposed to just keeping it secret, like KFC. Just keep the formula secret. But more than that, is just be the market leader. Just keep innovating. Just keep doing things better and better and better. Because even if somebody copies you, what they can't copy is your vision.
That's right.
Right. So as long as you're going ahead, they're 2 steps behind you all the time, as long as you're continuing to make improvements. And so I love the way John puts that, as far as being the predator and not the prey.
Yeah. Al Caperna, one of our investor, he talked about, if we're doing a series with him right now, about innovation, which is going to turn into a book and even a course down the line, because, he's really have brought a lot of innovation to the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And he talked about a company who spent most of their time following him. So whenever he did something, that they would come up with it and so forth, so on. Uh-huh. And he said, instead of it being annoying after a while, knowing that what was happening,
it's flattering.
So exactly. So he knew as long as they're following him, they'll never catch up to him.
Right. Exactly. That's the perspective you need to have.
You need to have. That's right. And I remember early when we first started, as we went national, a lot of the stakeholders that was around me, there was this big fear of us losing control of biblical entrepreneurship or of others copying. Mm-hmm. And I've always taken the attitude of, you know what, if we are the ones defining it, it doesn't matter,
right?
Because even if you copy, they're actually going to be fueling our brand. And that's what has happened with us, because when people then search, they come back to Nehemiah and biblical entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It works to our advantage.
Exactly.
And now the problem, though, Robert, is that when you're copying me, that means I have to keep improving. And here's the problem. Sometimes entrepreneurs, we're like, I got to keep getting better. And that can be tiring. At least I can feel like it can be tiring. What do you say to that?
You have to, because marketing conditions are always changing. People's needs change. I mean, you have to keep improving to stay relevant. I mean, the saddest things is when we see some of our local businesses have closed up. I mean, part of it was COVID, but part of it just because they couldn't keep up, because they weren't innovating. And when you're not innovating, if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to do it. Mm. And so your market share is slowly going to get deteriorated over time if you're just resting on your laurels. And what happens is and then you have to worry about competition at that point. So you always have to be innovating or keep improving, because you need to stay relevant. And so, because like I said, I mean, technology changes, customers' needs changes. So I understand how entrepreneurs can think, oh, it's so tiring. But I think that's the wrong perspective about just focusing on improvement. What you need to be focused on is the customer's needs. Mm. You're in business because you're providing a solution to somebody's problems. And as Kingdom business owners, I mean, that should be the motivation, right? Is we're helping solve people's problems. We're making a positive impact in people's lives, whether it's a small contribution in their life or a big contribution. It's irrelevant. We're making a contribution to people's lives, and we're making it a little bit better. And if you just stay focused on the mission and the needs of your customer and keep creating better and better products and services, I mean, I think that'll keep it going for the rest of your life.
Especially if you're operating on your God-given sweet spot, right? That's exactly the real issue.
Exactly.
If you're operating. Then we went, and then Chuck, before we go to Mick Owens, Chuck Prophet, and you'll like this because you wrote a piece that we use in BE about pricing, and Chuck dealt with economic engine. So what I want you to do is tie the importance of having of sharpening your economic engine with pricing, because there's a connection there as you prepare to deal with crisis. How would you tie what he shared about economic engine with what you teach on pricing?
Well, I mean, pricing leads the economic engine because that's the sale, right? The most money you have in your bank account is at the point of sale, and that's determined by your price, right? And that really sets the pace for your economic engine. So of course, then from there, you got your cost of goods, your expenses, and then hopefully you should have a healthy net left over for you to give to kingdom causes, for you to save for that rainy day, for that COVID year, and also to reinvest in the business so you can stay relevant, right? So really sharpening your economic engine. And I guess the way I'll say it is you want to be as efficient as possible. The more efficient you are, and so that means like going line item, like what I'll do with clients is go line item during the income statement, their P&L statement, and look for areas we can either improve the price a little bit. Is there areas that we can improve price? And so far, 100% of the time, there's always some area we can improve price. Is there ways we can reduce cost of goods or expenses? And when I say reduce cost of goods and expenses, it's not so much to cut costs, but it's also how do we be more efficient, right? So instead of saying, how do we cut marketing expense so we have a better margin? I say, how do we increase the output of what you're doing? Can we get are we just not getting a good ROI on our marketing expense or marketing investment? I always say marketing investment, right? So it's like, if you look, just line item down the P&L statement. I know Robin will probably love this because she says your financial picture tells a story about your business, and it's absolutely true. You go down line item and figure out ways to be as efficient as possible in your business. You'll always have a healthy net profit. And that, again, that economic engine is the thing that fuels your kingdom purpose in the business, because you want to grow, right? Because if whatever God's called you and your business to do, you want to make as big an impact as possible, which means you want to reach as many people as possible because you got a quality product and service. And the way to do that is to grow. And how you're going to grow is you got to maximize your profitability so that you can, number one, give, right? You tithe and you give. You also save, and then you also reinvest into your business so you can always continually be developing a better product and service. And so really fine-tuning and just going light on to fine-tune your economic engine is crucial, not just from a P&L standpoint, but it's from a kingdom perspective. It's the impact you want to make, right? The profits are just the outcome of your impact. The way I look at it is my profits are the outflow of the impact I'm making, because there's people connected to every piece of the dollar sign. When you look at your sales revenue, there's people that are represented by that. And so I go, how many customers, clients does that represent? That means that's many people I've directly influenced positively, but then also there's an indirect, right? Because we consult business, so which means there's customers, there's employees, there's families that are represented out of that number as well. So that's what I look at, is like not growth for the sake of growth, but it's for the impact.
I love it. And then we had Mick Owens, who he kind of took it a little more personal in terms of building his book Domino Life, kind of give us the importance of having a personal household in order. Robert, in your experience, so how important, when dealing with crisis, our theme, thriving in the midst of crisis, when you think about entrepreneurs, how important is me having my personal household finances together as I look at taking on risk of either starting a new business or expanding my business, whether it's through internal financing, through the business, through operating profit, which means reducing cash that I can either draw on or pay myself a salary, or leveraging other sources of financing.
Mm-hmm. Handling your personal finances is crucial, and that's where it starts, because as you handle your personal finances, that's how you're going to handle your business. And that's how you're going to either pay back your debt or not, or pay your investors back or not. So it's so crucial to have your house in order. I mean, that's biblical. I mean, you have to have your house in order. Like I said, where your money is, that's where your heart is. And so you've got to, and I'm one of the ones, and I'm guilty of not stewarding finances well in the past. I had $30,000 in debt when I graduated from college, and it was not because of, it wasn't college debt per se.
Oh, I was going to say that's normal, but
no, it was from partying. 100% party. That was
I could
all.
not
That's all it
tell, my
represented.
friend.
Because I actually, here's the ironic thing: I paid cash for my education. I went to junior college first, and then I went to local state college. I paid like $800 a semester. Right? I had a
Wow.
full-time job that I was working full-time, and I paid my tuition and books. I paid. So I didn't have any college debt the way you think of
That
college
is
debt.
funny.
My college
But you
debt
made
came
it
from
up
the
another way.
partying. Yeah, it was for the partying during college. And so, I look back and I go, man, the money I wasted. Because, like, you think about that $30,000. What did I get from that?
Mm.
Nothing. It was all consumed, right? So, and I think now, understanding finances and stewardship, investing, and all that, that $30,000 is probably, it could have been worth 400, because I did the math already, $500,000 now. If
Wow.
I would have invested that money back then, just that money back then, it would be worth well over $500,000 right now. So the money that I poured down the drain in drinks and skiing and all that, it was, what? So, anyways, all that to say, it's kind of a roundabout way of saying, get your personal finances in order, because then how you deal with your personal finances is how you're going to deal with your business. And that's, again, I said that earlier, that's the Achilles heel of most entrepreneurs, is how they handle the money, how they look at their P&L, keep things on track, because you just make better decisions when when you know how to make your money work for you. You just tend to make better decisions, right? In the past, 30 years ago, I didn't know how to make money work for me. I knew how to waste it. And then how you treat money in personal life is how you're going to treat it in your business. So it's absolutely crucial how get your house in order.
Wow. Talking to Robert Fukui. Robert is owns a company called I-61. Okay. Not
Isaiah 61. Yeah.
Yeah. And also has Power Couple by Design that him and his wife lead. They help couples in business to not only be able to thrive in their marriage as well as in their businesses. He's a business consultant and coach. Also, board member in my project until if actually this is his last months as we speak. We're going to get into it in a few minutes. So Robert, let's now transit. Again, we're talking about Nehemiah Week recap. This is day 4 of Nehemiah Week. If you've not yet registered, we got 2 more days to go. Here's the good news for you. The rest of the week is free.
It's free. Free 99.
Right. So you can just go sign up, no cost to you for tomorrow and the next day. And here's the little secret. If you sign up and whatever you buy while you're at the event, free event, you get 20% off. So, so it's a good way. I'm not sure how we're going to survive, but you can definitely get a good deal. Yeah. so you can go ahead and sign up.
20% off for free.
That's
you make
right.
money. You make money. You're giving away cash.
And then here's another secret. So if you buy next year's Nehemiah Week at only $49, if you're in the event, you'll get this year on demand at no cost to you. Wow, that's a great deal. You got to do it before Saturday midnight. So Robert. So let's talk about the Investors Forum. So this is your 3rd year doing it. What do you think of this year in terms? Let's talk about the businesses for a minute compared to past years.
Wow, these seem, I probably said this before, that every year seems to get better. And these two that presented, Nina and Malala, definitely were impressive. And rightly so, because Malala has a history already presenting an international business plan competition. She already got funding before and all that. And then Nina, she knocked out of the park. Last year at the International Business Plan competition, and of course, she presented so well during the Investors Forum. And going back to what I said earlier about the Achilles heel for most entrepreneurs is their finances, and they had it pretty tied up. There's some things I can nitpick, but from what we've seen in the past, not just with Nehemiah and the competitions or the Investors Forum, but just entrepreneurs in general, pitches in general. These two were pretty right on. They're pretty tight on their financials, and so that gives the investors a lot of confidence, right? That's the number one things. If you watch Shark Tank and all, the number one thing they ask for is the financials, because they want to know, do you know what it takes to be successful? Do you understand the numbers? Because numbers tell a story, and numbers are going to tell you your future. And so when they understand it and they have it down tight, it really gives the investors a lot of confidence that they know what they're doing. So of course they're more investable. when the entrepreneurs are numbers. And that was the one area for sure. I was impressed by both of them, is how tight they were in their finances. I think better as a group, as the two of them, I think better than any of the other groups before.
Yeah, no, well said. And one investor who they've donated into the fund, but they've not invested directly. That's the issue. They're going to make investment. So for those who are listening and watching, what's the importance of entrepreneurs watching that kind of event? What's the plus for them for being in the audience watching that? And you did some great polling this year that brought other perspectives to engage the audience as well. That was very good. But what do you think is the benefit for those who are watching?
Well, if you watch with the intent of learning, then you'll learn a lot. But if you just watch for entertainment's sake, then obviously you're not going to learn. So like even when I watch Shark Tank, it's amazing how unprepared these entrepreneurs are when they come on Shark Tank, because they know the basic standard questions they all ask when it comes to finances. And it's amazing how they don't have answers for it. And so when you watch these things, whether our investors forum or even something like Shark Tank, you want to be able to answer the questions the investors ask of the entrepreneur. So how you learn when you watch these things is, can you answer the same question about your business that the investor is asking about the entrepreneur that's pitching? If you can't, you got some work to do, because it's a lot easier to answer a tough question in something like this than it is to go through it in real life. So if you don't have the answer, just to verbalize an answer or to have it documented, how are you going to deal with it when it happens in real life? Because that's what the investor is looking at, is what happens if that, all the questions are around making sure you're prepared for the unexpected, the unknown. And so you should be prepared for that. So you should be able to answer the question. And if you can't, then you should definitely be able to do some work, because that's a hole in your business. And of course, we can never be 100% prepared for any disaster, right? I mean, COVID obviously was unique, but there's always going to be some kind of economic situation that's going to negatively impact your business. It's not I said it in the forum, and I said it all the time with our own clients. It's not a if, it's when the economy is going to tank, right? You talk to financial advisors, they'll tell you every 8 to 10 years, there's always a recession. And you don't even have to talk to investors or financial advisors. You can just Google it. Look at the market over the last century and a half. What does it do? There's always a dip. Every 8 to 10 years, there's a dip. So there's going to be a situation, some kind of crisis at some point, right? So how are you prepared for that? A lot of times when things are going well, you're just like, oh, it's going to go fine. And then all of a sudden, when you get COVID and you're shut down, you're scrambling, right? Versus the ones that already had that savings account that saved for the rainy day or the year. At least so they were able to get through it a little bit easier. And it's amazing how much of a short-term memory you have, because remember, it's only 2008, 2009, the Great Recession. When you're going through the crisis, you're scrambling to get above it. After the recession, you think you remember and go have better business practices like saving, but you don't. I mean, even personally, you're still seeing that. I think they said before the Great Recession, only 30% of households have a savings account. I think that number's dipped since then. From the last report I heard, I think that number's dipped. So I'm like, wait a second, have we not learned from the past? And so all I'd say is, you go on these things and you listen to what the investors, how prepared that the entrepreneurs are, and then listen to the questions that the investors have, and ask yourself, can I answer those same questions? That's how you learn.
Wow, well said. As always, we always have one entrepreneur who has kind of fully funded. Mm-hmm. This year was Pastor Gabriel. You've known Gabriel when he first came into the system, and now
when he didn't even know how to speak English.
Well, he didn't know how to speak English. Now he's got a school building, second campus, fully. So when you think about that, what are your thoughts there into what you saw the day versus when the guy that started with us maybe less than 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. I think it's fun to watch his journey. I mean, when he was just a pastor, or only a pastor, and when I say only, that's not to diminish it, it's because that's the only thing he was doing. And now he's an entrepreneur, and now he's a educator in a sense. He owns a school. And just seeing the growth and him stepping out in faith to not just be a pastor, but also to be, entrepreneur. But even pastors are entrepreneurs themselves as well. I feel, but going into the for-profit space and doing this thing, and seeing it succeed, and seeing him get funding, seeing the building built, and seeing kids coming in, and just seeing the growth, and also witnessing, because of what happened, that people investors from Mexico and the U.S. and I think even somewhere in Africa, investors from multiple countries have invested into him.
Yeah.
And to see it grow, it's just a fun thing to watch. So it was fun. It really tickled me to get the update from Gabriel and see what he's doing.
And he did a great job. I think he was very candid, spoke about the reality of his own struggles, but yet the grace and the opportunities. And then we conclude with the split of women in business and men. You'd work with couples in business. Any insight there as men and women are watching right now? Maybe speak to the couples. What's an insight you can share with couples? Because that's not dealing with just the human dynamic of whether women or men and all married. What that mean when it comes to being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but I was actually talking to Victor about this before you came on. If there's one thing to share about couples in business, now, it doesn't matter if you're working together or not. You're married, you own a business. The business is part of you as a couple, right? You own it together, whether you're on paper or not, it's irrelevant. You're married and you have this business. The thing you got to always remember is you're on the same team. Is the number one things that couples deal with is conflict. We all have disagreements and arguments, and how we get through that is some do it better than others, but the ones that struggle through, when you can't do conflict well, and especially when you're working together in the business, it's hard to make decisions. I mean, we've had a number of couples that work together, and the business actually gets hurt because the couples can't come to agreement. Mm-hmm. And then even if they're not working together, there's still that conflict too. And so you got to remember you're on the same team, that you want this. Both of you want the same thing. A lot of times it's, let's say if I'm the business owner and my wife doesn't work or whatever, and she has a disagreement of how I'm doing things. I think internally, I feel like she doesn't trust me, or she doesn't want me to succeed, yada, 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 right? I mean, those are some of the things that come into people's heads when your spouse disagrees with you. The reality is, why would your spouse not want you to succeed? Because if you fail, she fails, right? It hurts the bank account. If your business fails, it hurts the bank account. Of course, your spouse wants you to succeed. But we get into this, whenever there's a disagreement, we get into this defense thing. He said, she said, I got to win. I got to prove my point, whatever. Instead of saying, okay, I think we want the same thing, but we have maybe a different perspective. So let's maybe cut the noise and let's talk. Because a lot of times, because we get defensive, we don't even hear what the spouse is really saying. We're just reacting to what we think they're saying. Because there's a statistic that says 80% of how we interpret what was said was based on how it was said, not what was said itself. So body language, tone of voice, 80% of how we interpret things is basically on actually nonverbal cues. So we totally, a lot of times we just totally miss the mark on what our spouse is saying because we're interpreting something different because of how they said it. So all I'd say is just know you're on the same team and come up with ways. You have to discuss. We talk about game plan. We come up with a game plan of how we resolve issues. And so you got to do that in a kind of calm environment, not when you're actually in the middle of an argument, but there's things, what we say, what we do, there's certain actions we do or don't do. We don't try to trigger each other intentionally. We all know how to trigger your spouse, right? We all know how to trigger them. So if we don't do those things, those don't help, right? When you're in the middle of an argument or trying to resolve issues. So know you're on the same team and come up with a game plan of how to resolve issues. And when you're able to work well as a team, you can do anything, whether it's in your business, in your personal life, you can do anything. And you'll see an acceleration actually in the growth of your business when you start working better as a team, as opposed to start working against each other just because for whatever dispute that you might have.
Well said. And unfortunately, sometimes, and people people who have nothing to do with the family, employees and vendors, they get hurt in the process, which is
Absolutely.
a bad witness.
Absolutely.
In conclusion, Robert, so this is your last months as board member. You've first, I want to thank you so much. You have just been such an advocate for us. I can literally list not every board member whose terms comes up, who leaves. Can you literally, even staff, can you like literally measure the contribution they've made? From early marketing, helping us in that area, from helping with BE in California, and kind of making that work for a while, producing one of the early West Coast competitors from California, who actually went, I think he went first or second.
Well, the first one was me.
No, that's right. You were the first one.
And then from our class, yeah.
And then as a trainer, you produce, and you actually were part of our first international national competition here in Portland, Oregon, when we started doing those. And then your contribution in terms of the executive course, you should remember that, be executive. And then you pushed us on the self-pace, and then now it's, you'd be glad to know that as you're moving on, it's now part of our reality. As a matter of fact, it's last week, 2 weeks ago, we did in one weekend over $100,000 of sales in the weekend, partnering with LifeSearch. And then this week we had the first package program. These are expensive packages sold outside of even that venue. Just a direct person. So your contribution, Bulgaria is reopened because of your relationship, and also Zimbabwe that hasn't picked up as much, but they were hot for a while. So you've just, and there's a very few board members have a lesson in BE. You do in the market research. You have that piece on the on value-based pricing. That's also in the coaching element. So just made lots of contributions. So first, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And also watching you model the entrepreneurship. I remember when you were an executive with with the pharmaceutical, and you say, "I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave," and you did. It's leaving a big salary.
Everybody keeps reminding me that.
I know. And you've not gone back. So first, thank you for being a model, for giving your time, talents, and treasure to help us move this mission forward. So with that, Robert, I guess my last question for you is, how's been this journey for you with the Nehemiah Project, and what's ahead for Robert Fukui?
First, my pleasure of being part of Nehemiah. I mean, I tell people, it's like I've probably been part of Nehemiah in every possible way except for staff. And I started from the beginning, which was being a student. And right from the beginning, I knew this was something for me. And it was right at the time that I was thinking about leaving my corporate job to do consulting full time. So I basically developed my Kingdom business plan through biblical entrepreneurship, because it was right at the right time when our pastor got introduced to you, and he brought you to Harvest Rock here in Pasadena. So the timing was, couldn't have been more perfect. And that's when they were even asking me to develop a Kingdom business curriculum for their ministry school, which I'm like, well, I've never made curriculum and I haven't actually owned a business. And so, when you came to town, I was like, well, and he had that licensing option. I just told him, I was like, why don't we just license this thing? It's got all the scripture I'd have and all the business stuff, acumen I would be putting in there anyway. So why recreate the wheel? So it was obviously a natural fit from the very beginning. And being part of the board over these years and having the inside view of the growth of the organization and even the pivots and the highs and the lows. I mean, Patrice, we've had some pretty intense board meetings.
Yeah.
So it makes the good ones really, really special, right? And so we've had a lot more good ones than bad ones for sure. So, but it was just the period that was going. It was a challenging time in the ministry, but it was good that we had to challenge not just you, but the staff, but every one of us. I mean, we weren't just challenging you, we were challenging ourselves. And so, being part of what you're doing, your leadership, you and Gina, and also the board, I've had such a great time getting to know the board members, as well as the staff, and as well as meeting the entrepreneurs around the world. And so made some great friends that I know are going to last a lifetime. We're obviously connected just on social media for sure, but just seeing the growth of Nehemiah Project, the impact it's made, and the friends I've made along the way is huge. And I just can't, I just can't say enough about that. So God bless you, Patrice and Gina. And I know this won't be the last. I mean, I said our paths will cross again, and I'm always going to make myself available to the ministry whenever, it's possible, for sure. And as far as what's next for me, I mean, you talked about my wife and I's, niche in business consulting, targeting couples in business. I mean, there's a growth there where we have our online courses we've developed. There's a number of projects we have in the works, and a lot of things people are reaching out to us for certain different other projects. And also, part of the reason for stepping off the board was I need to make bandwidth to get on another board. I'm already on 6 boards, and so I just couldn't take on another one. And so, unfortunately, your board is the one that I've been on the longest. And so that wasn't the only reason why I decided to step off, but I also knew you have a great team, you have great board members, and you're in a great position. And I felt the contributions that I had, I was really happy with, and see how you put forward. But, most importantly, that I knew you had a good team around you that would continue to move things forward. And so I can help another ministry, a nonprofit that isn't as in good a shape, right? It's really to get things moving, and then, hey, I need to put my talents where someone needs it a little bit more. And so, and I've got some great projects in the works, and a great nonprofit that I'm working with, that is going to do some great things as well. I'm really excited about that. So excited about that, and as well as, the trajectory of our business and what we're doing with couples, and start doing some masterminds and do some online courses and stuff, and work with my wife a little bit closer. And I mean, there's just so much going on right now, and I'm just really excited about the future. So thanks, Patrice.
Well, we are excited for you. Thank you so much. What's neat is that you've made a huge contribution here, and the fact that you're going to help another organization, and that years from now you have the same story to tell, right? That you've met them when they were X and now they are Y. That speaks to you as a leader as well. It is definitely our loss, but it's the kingdom gain. Yeah. Right. So it's on the kingdom advance, and that's what's important. On Saturday, we're going to be honoring Robert Fukui. I know you asked me what the time was. I got to text you what time that is.
Because unfortunately, I'm speaking of the nonprofit. I'm going to be at a NASCAR race on Saturday.
That's right.
My client, he's a NASCAR driver, Will Rogers. He's racing Xfinity at Indianapolis, by the way. And his nonprofit is to raise awareness for liver disease. He survived a rare liver condition as a child that's incurable, but he's still living and ticking. And he's now wants to dedicate his platform as a personality to raise awareness for a disease that a lot of people are suffering that they don't need to. And so I'll be at his race, as well as exhibiting his foundation and stuff. And so not sure if I'm going to be able to make it, but let me know the time in case I can squeeze it in. But
We'll do it. We're giving Robert our board service award, which is for board members who favored to serve at least 3 years, and just been a major contributor. So Robert, thank you so much, my friend. We really appreciate what you've done. Gina and I both, from the bottom of our hearts, we owe you and Kaylee a dinner. So we'll make sure that when we in California, we'll make it happen. Or when you guys are important, we'll figure out how to make it happen, so we can kind of close it out. I know that you're a wine drinker. We'll even buy you some wine. How about that?
If we get up to Portland, then we'll go out with Ron.
Yeah, it is. No, we'll get the wine from the Ron's wine
cellar.
Wine cellar. Thank you, man. Wish you all the best. Listen, for those of you watching, if you want to know more about Robert, you can visit him on his website. powercouplesbydesign.com. powercouplesbydesign.com. If you're on the e-commerce platform, you can also find him there. He's also on social media. Also, if you want to register for Nehemiah Week, the last 2 days, guess what? Free for you. just go to Nehemiah Project, NehemiahWeek.com, NehemiahWeek.com. There you can sign up for the International Business Plan Competition. The question we're asking, who will win? Is it Kenya for Africa? Is it Bulgaria for Europe? Is it Australia for Asia? Or is it, I'm not sure what, I think
North
Boston
America.
for North America, or US from North America? Who will win this year? Will Kenya preserve the winning, or will it get passed on to another country? We'll see. Come tomorrow and find out. Also on Saturday, we'll have an impact. Our student ministry event where we showcase what we've done, invite you to partner with us financially and to pursue this mission. Tomorrow I'll be back here with Deborah and Lorna as we debrief on what happened with the International Business Plan Competition. With that said, let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that are under your care. And may you steward them in such a way that one day you'll hear those wonderful words, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. He'll now make you ruler over much. God bless you. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. God bless everyone.